The steady hum of medical equipment filled the pristine white corridors of Deep Space Medical Station Alpha. Dr. James Miller stood at the observation window, watching the endless sea of stars stretch into infinity. After 3 years stationed at humanity's first deep space medical facility, he still couldn't get used to the view. A soft chime from his computer terminal broke his contemplation. The screen flashed red. An urgent transmission. Miller straightened his white coat and accepted the call. "Dr. Miller speaking," he said, maintaining the professional demeanor that had earned him his position as the station's head surgeon. The screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that made him grip the edge of his desk. A massive reptilian figure filled the display, its scaled face marked with the intricate patterns that denoted high military rank in the Stellar Confederation. "This is Commander Stone of the Confederation warship Eternal Dawn." The alien's voice rumbled through the speakers. Despite the universal translator, Miller could hear the underlying tension. "We require immediate medical consultation." Miller checked the station's scanners. The massive warship had dropped out of faster-than-light travel just minutes ago, now hovering less than a kilometer from the medical station. Its size dwarfed the human facility. "Of course, Commander. We'll prepare our emergency bay for your crew member." "No crew member," Stone interrupted. "The consultation is for me, and it must be private." Miller blinked in surprise. Confederation commanders rarely sought medical help, especially from humans. Their own medical technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. "I understand," Miller replied, though he didn't. "When would you like to?" "Now," Stone said firmly. "I'm already in your teleport reception area." The call ended abruptly. Miller hurried through the corridors, his mind racing. In the 6 months since Earth had joined the Stellar Confederation, he treated dozens of alien species. But a commander, that was unprecedented. The teleport reception area's doors slid open with a soft hiss. Commander Stone's presence filled the room. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, the reptilian warrior's scales gleamed under the medical bay's lights. The commander wore the distinctive black and silver uniform of the Confederation fleet, decorated with symbols of countless victories. "Dr. Miller." Stone's voice was quieter now, almost hesitant. "Your reputation for discretion preceded you. Everything between doctor and patient is confidential," Miller assured him, "regardless of species or rank." Stone nodded, his scaled head catching the light. "Good, because what I'm about to share must not leave this station." Miller led the commander to his private examination room, noting how the massive alien moved with careful precision, as if afraid of breaking the human-sized furniture. "The Confederation's medical technology is far superior to ours," Miller said as he prepared his diagnostic tools. "Why come to a human doctor?" Stone's yellow eyes fixed on him. "Because your people think differently. You find solutions where we see none. And right now, Dr. Miller, I need a solution." The commander reached into his uniform and withdrew a data crystal. "This contains my complete medical history. Our finest doctors have failed to treat my condition. They say it's impossible." Miller inserted the crystal into his computer, and his eyes widened as he read the diagnosis. A hereditary nerve disorder, similar to conditions he'd treated in humans, but with crucial differences in alien physiology. "Impossible." Miller smiled slightly. "Commander, if there's one thing humans excel at, it's achieving the impossible. Tell me more about your symptoms." As Stone began to speak, Miller's mind was already racing through potential treatments, combining his knowledge of human medicine with what he'd learned about alien biology. The commander was right. Humans did think differently. Where alien doctors saw impossibility in their advanced methods, Miller saw opportunity in simpler, older techniques. This could either be his greatest achievement or his most spectacular failure. Either way, it would change human-alien medical cooperation forever. Stone finished describing his symptoms and looked at Miller expectantly. "Well, doctor, can you help me?" Miller met the commander's gaze. "Yes," he said firmly. "I believe I can, but you'll have to trust human medicine." The commander's scales shifted and what Miller had learned was a smile. Dr. Miller, I wouldn't be here if I didn't. Dr. Miller studied the holographic display of Commander Stone's nervous system, floating in the air between them. The complex network of neural pathways glowed with an eerie blue light, highlighting the areas affected by the commander's condition. The pain started 5 cycles ago, Stone explained, his clawed hand passing through the hologram to point at a cluster of damaged nerves. At first, just minor discomfort. Now, he paused, and Miller noticed a slight tremor in the commander's usually steady hands. Now it's becoming unbearable, Miller finished for him. The commander's proud posture stiffened, but he nodded. Our medical technology can mask the symptoms, Stone continued, but the underlying condition grows worse. The neural degradation spreads faster each month. He deactivated the hologram with a gesture. In 1 year, I will lose control of my motor functions. In 2, I will be completely paralyzed. Miller watched as the mighty warrior pulled out another data crystal. This contains the failed treatment attempts by our best medical minds. 17 different approaches, all useless. The human doctor inserted the crystal into his medical tablet. His eyes widened as he scrolled through the information. The alien treatments were incredibly advanced. Molecular reconstructors, quantum neural repairs, even attempts at genetic rewiring. Yet each had failed to stop the disease's progression. Commander, Miller said carefully, I notice all these treatments focus on high-tech solutions. Has anyone tried more traditional methods? Stone's scaled head tilted in confusion. Traditional. Yes, sometimes the old ways work best. Miller pulled up an ancient medical text on his screen. Humans faced similar neural conditions centuries ago. Before we had advanced technology, we developed other techniques. The commander leaned forward, his massive frame making the reinforced medical chair creak. You mean primitive medicine? Physical procedures? Exactly. Miller pointed to a diagram. Your species' nervous system has similarities to ours. Different structure, but similar function. We might be able to adapt old human surgical techniques. Stone's yellow eyes narrowed. Surgery, with actual tools. There was a mix of disbelief and horror in his voice. Not energy beams or nanobots. Sometimes a skilled hand can do what technology can't, Miller explained. Your doctors tried to rewrite the problem. I want to repair it. The commander stood and began pacing the room, his heavy footsteps echoing off the walls. My medical officer will object. He believes human medicine is crude. He's not wrong, Miller admitted. Compared to your methods, it is crude. But crude doesn't mean ineffective. Stone stopped pacing and turned to face the doctor. If word got out that a Confederation commander submitted to human surgery, he let the sentence hang. It would damage your reputation, Miller finished. The proud warrior, turning to primitive humans for help. Yes. Stone's voice was barely a whisper. But pride means nothing if I can't command my ship, can't fight, can't even feed myself. Miller stood and walked over to the towering alien. Commander, I believe I can help you. Not with fancy technology, but with skill, knowledge, and yes, primitive human techniques. The choice is yours. Stone was quiet for a long moment, his scaled hands flexing unconsciously. Finally, he spoke. My people have a saying, better to die standing than live on your knees. But perhaps, he looked down at Miller, perhaps it's better to swallow one's pride than not stand at all. I'll need to review more of your medical data, Miller said, and develop a specific surgical plan. But I think we can beat this. The commander nodded slowly. Very well, Dr. Miller. I place my life and my pride in your hands. He straightened to his full height. But if you tell anyone I said that, I'll deny it. Miller smiled. Doctor-patient confidentiality, remember. Now, let's start planning your treatment. And Commander, yes, thank you for trusting human medicine. Stone's scales shifted in that alien smile. Don't make me regret it, Doctor. Don't make me regret it at all. Over the next 3 days, Dr. Miller barely left his office. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing detailed comparisons between human and alien nervous systems. Empty coffee cups littered his desk, testament to his relentless work schedule. "Computer, overlay the commander's neural pathways with human spinal structure again," he muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. The display shifted, and Miller leaned forward with sudden interest. "There it is," he whispered. "The connection I've been looking for." The door chimed, and Commander Stone ducked through the entrance. Even after several visits, the sight of the massive alien warrior trying to fit into the human-sized medical office remained striking. "You called for me, Doctor?" Stone asked, his yellow eyes scanning the various displays. "Yes, Commander. Look at this." Miller gestured at the floating images. "Your species' neural structure is different from ours, but there's something fascinating here." He manipulated the hologram, highlighting specific nerve clusters. "Your primary neural pathways branch differently than ours, but the basic transmission method is almost identical. It's like two different languages using the same alphabet." Stone studied the display. "And this helps us how?" "It means we can adapt human surgical techniques to your physiology." Miller pulled up another image. 2 centuries ago, humans developed microsurgery to repair damaged nerves. The technology was basic, but the principles were sound. The commander's scales shifted skeptically. "My medical officer says such primitive methods would be dangerous." "Your medical officer isn't wrong," Miller admitted. "But look here." He overlaid an old human surgical diagram with the commander's neural scan. "The repair technique is the same. We just need to adjust for your anatomy." Stone leaned closer, his massive frame casting a shadow over the desk. "You sound confident." "I am. But there's more." Miller pulled up another display. "Your advanced medical technology keeps failing because it's too sophisticated. It tries to rewrite your neural patterns completely. But sometimes, simpler is better." He demonstrated with a basic animation. "Instead of rewriting the system, we manually repair the damaged sections. Your body's natural healing takes care of the rest. Like setting a broken bone instead of trying to grow a new one." The commander watched silently as Miller explained the procedure. His scaled hands flexed unconsciously, a sign of deep thought, the doctor had learned. "The risk?" Stone finally asked. "Significant," Miller answered honestly. "We'd be combining human surgical techniques with your medical technology in ways never tried before. But," he met the commander's gaze, "I believe it will work." Stone turned to look out the office window at the stars beyond. "My crew respects me because I'm strong," he said quietly. If this fails, you'll still be strong," Miller interrupted. "Strength isn't just about physical power, Commander. Sometimes it's about having the courage to try something new." The alien warrior was quiet for a long moment. "My medical officer will object strongly." "I'm counting on it," Miller smiled. "In fact, I need him to object. His knowledge of your medical technology will be crucial for the procedure." Stone turned back from the window. "Explain." "We'll combine the best of both worlds. Human surgical techniques with alien medical technology. Your medical officer's expertise with my primitive methods." Miller gestured at the displays. "Together, we can do what neither could do alone." The commander studied the human doctor carefully. "You truly believe this will work?" "I do. But I need you to trust not just me, but human medicine itself. Can you do that?" Stone's scales rippled in what Miller had come to recognize as amusement. "Doctor, I command a warship that can destroy planets. And here I am, putting my fate in the hands of a human using centuries-old medical techniques." He shook his massive head. "Perhaps I've already lost my mind to this disease. Or perhaps," Miller suggested, "you're just wise enough to know that sometimes the old ways are the best ways." "Perhaps." Stone straightened to his full height. "Very well, Doctor. Proceed with your plans, and may your primitive methods prove as effective as your confidence suggests." Miller nodded, already reaching for another data crystal. Trust me, Commander. Sometimes the human touch is exactly what's needed. The medical bay's conference room crackled with tension. Dr. Miller stood at one end of the table, facing the towering figure of Medical Officer Ward, Commander Stone's chief physician. The alien doctor's silver scales gleamed under the harsh lights as he glared at the holographic display of Miller's proposed procedure. "This is madness," Ward hissed, his long fingers gesturing at the surgical plan. "You propose to use physical instruments to manually manipulate the commander's neural pathways. This is not medicine. This is butchery." Miller kept his voice calm. "Your advanced treatments have failed, medical officer. Sometimes we need to step backwards to move forward." Backwards. Ward's scales flushed dark with anger. "You want to use techniques from your species' medical dark ages. The risk is unacceptable." Commander Stone sat silently at the head of the table, watching the debate. His yellow eyes moved between the two doctors, following their arguments like a tactical display. "Show him, Dr. Miller," Stone finally rumbled. Miller nodded and adjusted the hologram. "This is footage from a human neural surgery performed 50 years ago." The display showed delicate instruments repairing damaged nerves with precision. "Now watch what happens when we combine this with your medical technology." He overlaid a simulation showing how alien monitoring systems and healing accelerators would complement the physical procedure. Ward's anger slowly shifted to reluctant interest. "The physical manipulation creates pathways that your regeneration technology can follow," Miller explained. "Instead of trying to rewrite the entire system, we guide it, like creating a map for your advanced medicine to follow." Ward's scaled fingers traced the simulation's path. "The concept is not entirely without merit," he admitted grudgingly, "but the precision required." "That's why I need your help," Miller said. "Your monitoring systems can guide my hands with accuracy impossible in traditional human surgery. We combine your knowledge of the commander's physiology with my surgical technique." Stone leaned forward. "Can it work?" Ward was quiet for a long moment, studying the displays. "The theory is sound," he finally said. "But Dr. Miller, one mistake, one tremor of your primitive tools." "That's why we'll practice," Miller said firmly. "We'll run simulations until every movement is perfect. Your technology will ensure precision. My hands will provide the human touch that's been missing from previous attempts." The medical officer turned to his commander. "Sir, I must officially register my objection to this procedure." "The risk to your life is mine to take," Stone interrupted. "The disease will kill me anyway. At least this gives me a chance." Ward's scales rippled with concern. "The crew will not understand. Using human medicine when our own techniques exist. The crew will understand that their commander chose survival over pride," Stone said firmly. "And if they don't," his massive shoulders moved in an approximation of a shrug, "they can take their complaints to me personally." Miller pulled up another display. "I've mapped out a training schedule. 2 weeks of simulations, practicing every possible scenario. Medical Officer Ward, I'll need you to help modify your monitoring equipment to interface with my surgical tools." Ward studied the schedule, then looked at Miller with new respect. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human doctor. Perhaps both." "Sometimes those are the same thing," Miller smiled. "Will you help?" The alien physician glanced at his commander, then back to Miller. "Yes," he said reluctantly. "But if anything goes wrong, then I'll take full responsibility," Miller assured him. "Now let's begin the first simulation. We have a lot of work ahead of us." Commander Stone watched as the two doctors began working together, human and alien knowledge slowly merging into something new. "Dr. Miller," he called out. "Yes, Commander. If this succeeds, you will have changed how our species view human medicine forever." Miller nodded seriously. "And if it fails, I'll have confirmed every doubt they have about us." Stone's scales shifted in that alien smile. "Then let us hope your ancient solutions prove wiser than our modern ones." "They will," Miller said confidently, turning back to the simulation. They have to. The next 2 weeks would prove him either very right or very wrong, and Commander Stone's life hung in the balance. The medical bay hummed with the combined power of human and alien technology. Commander Stone lay unconscious on the operating table, his massive form dwarfing the modified surgical bed. Holographic displays floated above him, showing every detail of his neural structure in real time. Dr. Miller took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. 2 weeks of constant practice had led to this. His surgical gloves held both traditional human instruments and modified alien tools, a bizarre fusion of old and new. Life support systems stable. Medical Officer Ward announced, his silver scales reflecting the blue glow of monitoring equipment. Neural pattern recording activated. Beginning primary incision, Miller said calmly. His hands moved with practiced precision, making the first cut along the commander's spine. The alien healing field immediately responded, controlling bleeding and tissue trauma. Remarkable, Ward muttered, watching the human doctor work. Your movements match the simulation perfectly. Miller didn't respond, focusing entirely on his task. Layer by layer, he worked his way down to the commander's damaged neural cluster. The alien monitoring systems guided his hands with microscopic precision, while traditional surgical skill guided his decisions. First damaged pathway exposed, he announced, beginning micro-repair sequence. For the next hour, the operating room was silent except for the soft beeping of equipment and Miller's quiet commands. His hands moved steadily, repairing each damaged nerve with a combination of physical manipulation and alien regeneration technology. Then everything went wrong. Neural spike, Ward suddenly shouted. The commander's system is rejecting the repair pattern. Miller's displays flashed red as Stone's vital signs began to fluctuate wildly. The repaired nerves were misfiring, sending cascading waves of dysfunction through the commander's system. This didn't happen in the simulations, Ward hissed, his scales darkening with stress. We need to abort. No. Miller's mind raced, analyzing the problem. The repair is good, but his body's fighting it. We need to. He paused, an old lesson from medical school suddenly surfacing. Ward, reduced the regeneration field to 30%. That's far too low for proper healing. Trust me, his system is overwhelmed. Too much power, too fast. We need to let his natural healing take over. Ward hesitated for a crucial second, then complied. The blue glow of the alien healing field dimmed significantly. Almost immediately, the commander's vital signs began to stabilize. Now, Miller said, his hand steady despite the crisis. Watch this. He made a series of small, precise adjustments to the repaired nerves, working with barely any technological assistance. Pure human surgical skill, guided by decades of medical knowledge. Impossible, Ward whispered as the neural patterns began to align properly. You're doing it manually. Sometimes the body knows best, Miller replied, continuing his delicate work. We just have to help it along, not force it. For another 3 hours, they worked this way. Miller made the repairs using primarily human techniques, while the alien technology provided just enough support to prevent complications. It was surgery as neither species had ever attempted before. A perfect blend of old and new, human and alien. Finally, Miller straightened up. Last pathway repaired. Begin final regeneration sequence. Ward carefully brought the healing field back to full power. This time, the commander's body accepted it, using the energy to strengthen the repairs Miller had made. Neural patterns stabilizing, Ward announced, his voice filled with disbelief. The repair sequence is holding. It's actually holding. Miller stepped back from the operating table, suddenly aware of how tired he was. Close him up. Standard post-operative procedure. As the medical team began the final steps, Ward approached the human doctor. That was unprecedented. When the crisis hit, you didn't just follow protocols. You adapted. Human medicine had to adapt constantly, Miller explained. We didn't have perfect technology. We had to think on our feet, trust our instincts. Perhaps, Ward said slowly, there is more value in your primitive methods than I realized. Miller smiled tiredly. The real test will come when he wakes up. Then we'll know if human hands and alien technology really can work together. They both looked at the unconscious commander, knowing that the next few hours would either make history or end a career. The recovery room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Dr. Miller stood at Commander Stone's bedside, watching the alien warrior's vital signs with intense concentration. It had been 6 hours since the surgery. Neural patterns remained stable. Medical Officer Ward reported, checking his advanced scanners. The repair work is holding better than I. He paused, scales shifting in what Miller had learned was embarrassment. Better than I expected. A low growl came from the bed. Stone's yellow eyes flickered open, immediately focusing on Miller. Doctor, the commander's voice was rough, but clear. Did your primitive methods work, or am I dead? Miller smiled. Try moving your right hand, Commander. Stone lifted his massive scaled hand, studying it carefully. The tremor that had plagued him for months was gone. His movements were smooth, controlled. Perfect. The pain? Miller asked. Gone. Stone sat up slowly, testing each muscle group. Completely gone. He turned to Ward. Status report. The medical officer activated a holographic display above the bed. Neural function is at 98% of optimal levels and still improving. The human surgical technique, combined with our regeneration technology, has not only halted the degradation but reversed it. In simple terms, Miller added, "You're healing. The disease is gone." Stone swung his legs off the bed, ignoring Ward's protests. He stood to his full height, towering over both doctors. "You did it," he said simply. "You actually did it." The door chimed, and a junior officer rushed in. "Commander, word of your surgery has reached the Confederation Medical Council. They're demanding a full report." Stone's scales rippled with amusement. "I imagine they are, especially when they learn their precious commander let a human cut into him with physical tools." "Sir," the officer looked uncomfortable. "There's more. 3 other ship commanders have already requested consultations with Dr. Miller. They're all suffering from similar conditions." Miller and Ward exchanged surprised looks. Stone laughed, a deep rumbling sound that filled the room. "And so it begins," the commander said. "The proud Confederation coming to humans for medical help. Our medical council will be furious. They'll be even more furious when they learn the full details." Ward added, "We didn't just use human techniques. We proved they could be superior to our own in certain cases." Miller raised an eyebrow. "Superior. Yesterday you called them primitive and dangerous." Ward's scales flushed slightly. "Yesterday I was uninformed. Today I witnessed something remarkable. The way you adapted during a crisis, using instinct and experience instead of just technology." He straightened formally. "I request permission to study human surgical techniques, Commander." Stone nodded approvingly. "Granted. In fact," he turned to Miller, "Doctor, would you be willing to establish a training program? Share your human medical knowledge with our physicians." "Of course," Miller replied, "but only if your physicians share their knowledge with us. Today proved that combining our methods works better than either alone." The junior officer's communicator beeped again. "Sir, the medical council is most insistent. They're demanding to know how a human doctor succeeded where Confederation medicine failed." Stone walked to the window, moving with a grace he hadn't shown in months. The stars stretched endlessly before him, holding new possibilities. "Tell them," he said firmly, "that the human doctor succeeded precisely because he was human. Because sometimes the old ways are the best ways, and because progress doesn't always mean moving forward. Sometimes it means remembering what we've forgotten." He turned back to Miller. "You've changed things, Doctor. The Confederation will never look at human medicine the same way again." Miller nodded, already thinking about the work ahead. Teaching alien doctors human techniques, learning their advanced methods, creating something new from the combination of both. That was the idea, Commander, he said quietly. That was the idea all along. Stone smiled his alien smile. Well then, Dr. Miller, shall we go make history? Actually, Miller grinned, I think we already have. The stars seemed to shine brighter as human and alien left the recovery room together, stepping into a future neither species had imagined possible just days before. 3 months after Commander Stone's groundbreaking surgery, Deep Space Medical Station Alpha had transformed. The once quiet human facility now bustled with activity, its corridors filled with both human and alien medical personnel. Dr. Miller stood in his newly expanded office, watching a group of Confederation doctors practicing traditional human surgical techniques on holographic patients. Their scaled hands moved with increasing confidence, guided by centuries of human medical knowledge. Your students are progressing well, Commander Stone observed, entering the office. He moved with the fluid grace of perfect health, no trace remaining of his former condition. They're eager to learn, Miller replied, and surprisingly humble about it. Even Ward has stopped calling our methods primitive. Stone laughed. Ward now carries human surgical tools alongside his advanced equipment. He claims the combination has improved his success rate by 40%. Miller turned to face the commander. On his desk sat a stack of data crystals, treatment requests from across the Confederation. Word had spread quickly after Stone's recovery, and now alien patients were arriving daily, seeking the unique combination of human skill and alien technology. The exchange program is expanding, Miller said, gesturing to another room where human doctors learn to use alien medical devices. Both sides are learning that we're stronger together than apart. The Medical Council finally agrees, Stone added. They've officially recognized human medical techniques as a valid complementary treatment approach, though I suspect being proved wrong still irritates them. A young human doctor burst into the office, eyes bright with excitement. Dr. Miller, the neural regeneration procedure worked. We combined 20th century microsurgery with Confederation healing fields, just like you taught us. The alien patient is already showing signs of recovery. Miller smiled. Well done, Dr. Adams. Document everything for the archives. We're building a new medical library, one that belongs to both our species. As Adams hurried away, Stone moved to the window. The station had grown, new sections added to accommodate the increasing number of patients and students. Several Confederation medical ships now orbited permanently, their crews both teaching and learning. You've started something remarkable, Doctor, Stone said quietly. A true merger of medical knowledge. My people thought we had nothing to learn from humans. We were wrong. And we thought alien technology had all the answers, Miller replied. We were wrong too. The real answer was combining both. The station's alert system chimed softly. Dr. Miller to Emergency Bay 1. New patient arriving. Duty calls, Miller said, gathering his tools. Both human and alien. Care to observe, Commander. Stone's scales rippled with interest. Wouldn't miss it. I want to see what other miracles human hands and alien technology can create together. They walked through the busy corridors, passing humans and aliens working side by side. In one room, a Confederation surgeon used human surgical techniques to repair damage that alien technology couldn't fix alone. In another, a human doctor employed alien healing fields to enhance traditional Earth medicine. You know, Miller said as they reached the emergency bay, when you first requested human treatment, I never imagined it would lead to this. Stone watched as the medical team, human and alien working in perfect synchronization, prepared for the incoming patient. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from unexpected requests. The doors opened, bringing in their next patient. Miller picked up his instruments, feeling the familiar weight of human tools enhanced by alien technology. Behind him stood the best of both medical traditions, ready to work together. Well, "Commander," he said, "shall we continue making history?" Stone's scales shifted in that now familiar smile. "Lead the way, Doctor. Lead the way." As they began their work, the stars outside the station seemed to shine brighter, witnessing the dawn of a new era in medical science. An era where the wisdom of the past and the technology of the future worked together, healing patients in ways neither species could have achieved alone. And it all started because one alien commander was brave enough to trust a human doctor with an unexpected request. The end.